Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. This episode, we're going to be discussing the second half of the game previews. I'm not going to hold you for long, but let's get it started. Alright, the next game is going to be the Detroit Lions versus the Chicago Bears. Da Bears, da Bears, da Bears, da Bears, da Bears. That's for you, Joe and Felix. Alright, here we go. We're going to start with the home team, Detroit Lions. So we're going to start at the quarterback position, Matthew Stafford. I do like Matthew Stafford this year, but this is not a good matchup, and he has some receiver issues right now. Kenny Golladay is, I believe, a game-time decision, if not ruled already out by the time you see this. That is worrisome for me personally. So I'm going to be sitting Matthew Stafford this week. Moving on to the wide receiver position, just like I was saying. Kenny Golladay, one of the best wide receivers in the league, is dinged up, and I don't know if he plays. And even if he does play, is he going to be hampered? So that's something that you should be watching out for Sunday morning to see whether or not he's going to play, because he is an elite wide receiver, and it's going to be unfortunate if they don't have him. But definitely upgrades the next wide receiver on the list. Marvin Jones is a start for me. I think you can start Marvin Jones. Perennially undervalued Marvin Jones. For whatever reason, no one wants to put some respect on Marvin Jones' name. So I'm going to do it. You can play Marvin Jones, especially in DFS. You might have a better option to play Marvin Jones. Or you might have a better option than to play Marvin Jones, but I definitely think he is playable. I like Marvin Jones as a low-end wide receiver too. He could be pretty solid. All right, moving on to the running back position. I'm not touching any of them. I'm not playing DeAndre Swift, no Kerryon Johnson, or Adrian Peterson. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Kerryon Johnson, because he's been in that offense, and I think that he might get a majority of the workload. But to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. That is going to be one of the backfields that I monitor. Who is going to be getting more touches? Where are they getting those rushes? So I think that should be interesting. Moving on to the tight end position, TJ Hawkinson. He's meh. Some people are really high on him this year. I'm kind of whatever about him. I think he presents upside long term, but I don't know if I want to play him against the Chicago Bears. So I'd be sitting him. And I'm not playing the Lions defense you could actually play Matt Prater. Matt Prater is a solid kicker in general. And I do think that even without Kenny Golladay, I think that Marvin Jones and Matthew Stafford can figure something out to get down the field. All right. So next is the Chicago Bears. We're going to start off with the quarterback position, and we just found out Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the starter. Yay! Nick Foles is the backup, and Mitch Trubisky is the starter. It really didn't matter who I was going to say for those names. I'm not starting either of them. Don't start a Chicago Bears quarterback until further notice. On to the next. We're going to the running back position. David Montgomery has had a tremendous turnaround. He is playing, I think. I think he is. He's starting to feel better. He had a groin injury a little bit ago, a couple weeks, I believe, or a week. And he was limited, but now I think that he's been practicing, so he might play, but that doesn't mean you should play him. After he got injured, he fell in draft, so you probably have him as a running back 3 or 4, hopefully a 4, and I would definitely bench him this week. I don't know whether or not he's going to aggravate his injury. Now, moving on to Tariq Cohen, I'm also not playing him because it's not like he's going to step into that role and take over. So I'm staying away from actually both backfields in this game. All right, moving on to the wide receiver position. I think that you can you could definitely play Allen Robinson. You play Allen Robinson. But Anthony Miller, I'm going to be on a wait and see. I want to see how he does. I think that he's talented, but I want to see what kind of workload he's going to get. And we're going to move on to the tight end position, and miss me with Jimmy Graham. I will not be starting him. I want to see what he's still got, actually. He's getting paid, so they might use him. But what's he have left? He's a big body, so he could catch a touchdown, but I'm not looking for him to get a lot of yards. And you can play the Bears defense, especially now that Kenny Golladay is doubtful or possibly not playing. I think the Bears defense would be fine. And kind of whatever on their kicker. All right, so now it's time to pick this game. The Lions are a 1.5 point favorite. I am going to go with the Lions. I think the Lions win their first game of the year this year. Oh, good for you, Lions. Happy for you, Mikey. All right. I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. All right. This next game is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington football team. This is going to be the first time they're playing as the Washington football team. This is going to be interesting, kind of. So let's start off with the home team, Washington football team. They are 6.5 point dogs. That means Philly is projected to win by 6.5 points. So, starting off at the quarterback position, they ended up going with Dwayne Haskins. So, Alex Smith is not starting for now. I'd say for now because there's always a chance it changes. So, you're not starting him. Let's just cut to the chase. Next, wide receivers. You can start Terry McLaurin. He's got a couple of aliases he goes by. The F1 goes by Scary Terry. Terry McLaurin is a fantastic wide receiver. I really like him. And him and Dwayne Haskins played football in college together. So hopefully they've been working out their connection. Because last year he wasn't playing too great. But you know what? Dwayne Haskins was thrown into the fire in the middle of the season on a bad offense. So I definitely think that they'll be a little bit better this year than they were last year. So I think that you can definitely play Terry McLaurin. We're moving on to the running back position. As you know, Adrian Peterson is gone. Darius Geis is gone. So I don't still think I'm going to start anybody on the running back room other than Antonio Gibson. He's been a bright spot in that backfield. He's a versatile running back that he has some upside. In college, he didn't play a lot, but he played some wide receiver, running back. He played some kick return. He's very multifaceted. He has a lot of talents, and I'm very interested to see how he puts that together in the NFL field. So I think you can play him. I don't think you really have to, depending on where you drafted him, but he has a lot of upside. And in a matchup where they're projected to be losing, they might throw it to him more than they normally would, or like they normally would because they're going to be losing those games. All right. So we are going to go to the next position, and that is going to be tight end, which I'm not starting any of their tight ends. And I'm not starting their defense, and I'm not starting their kicker. All right, let's move on to the Eagles. Starting off with the quarterback, Carson Wentz. Fire him up. You're definitely playing Carson Wentz. He's great. As long as he's healthy, I think you should play him. He's a very good quarterback. On to the wide receivers. Their wide receivers are always injured. Alshon Jeffrey should be out. Jalen Reagor is possibly out, and if he isn't out, he's going to be dinged up. So I wouldn't play him either. But one of my favorite wide receivers, Deshaun Jackson, is healthy to start the year. Yes, I definitely think you can play Deshaun Jackson. Last year in week 1, he had 2 touchdowns, like 100-plus yards. He's a beast when he's healthy. He has his up and down games, but I definitely think that this is a game that he can capitalize on. So I like Deshaun Jackson, and I actually play him over a decent amount of other players as well, especially if you're looking for upside. Okay, so next we're going to be discussing the running back position. Unfortunately, Miles Sanders is injured, and apparently he's not even going to be traveling with the team, so he's going to be out. And that's very unfortunate. First round draft pick, you hate to hear that. I don't know the specifics on how long he will be out, but he's at least out for this week. So fire up Boston Scott, especially in DFS. They're not going to be able to change the price in time. Boston Scott's going to be a very good discount. Even though the defensive line for Washington should be pretty solid, they definitely got better adding Chase Young, their number 2 pick in the draft last year. But I still think that you can play Boston Scott. He's going to be fine. In season long, I'm not quite sure whether or not I would or would not play him. I draft running backs early, so I definitely won't be playing him. I have him in a couple of leagues, but I'm not starting him over Joe Mixon. So I think that he can start, so if you are desperate for whatever reason, I think he's going to be fine. All right, moving on to the tight end position. Zach Ertz, you're starting him every week. He's a top 5 tight end. You always start Zach Ertz. And Dallas Goedert could get some work, especially with all the other wide receivers being out and with Miles Sanders being out. He's more of a flyer or a DFS kind of play, but, I mean, he could get a little bit of work considering how many targets have been vacated with all the other injuries. And I definitely think you can play the defense against Washington. They're going to be a great defense this week. So if they're out on your waiver wire, grab them. Great streaming defense. And you can play the kicker, Jake Elliott. All right, time to pick this game. Eagles are 6.5-point favorites, and I think that they cover. I do think it might be slightly closer than we all think it's going to be, but I still think that they cover. All right, and that's going to be it for this one. On to the next one. All right, next is the Cincinnati Bengals versus the LA Chargers. Both of these teams look a lot different than they do last year, so this one's going to be a little difficult to pick, but we'll get there in a minute. The Chargers are favored by 3.5, and they're playing in LA, so let's go on to LA. We're going to start with the quarterback position. Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is a solid quarterback. His first year playing as the starter with the Chargers full-time. Wonder how long he's going to be able to keep that job. Coach says he's going to be able to keep it for the whole year, but we know how it goes when the team drafts a quarterback in the first round. So, for this game, he's going to be starting. I'm not starting him because I don't really think you have to. That being said, I think he can actually have a fine game. He's going to run with his legs, and he might be able to throw a touchdown or two, but I definitely think the rushing is going to be his benefit. All in all, I don't think you can play him in season long. If you want to shoot for upside in DFS, I understand, but I don't know if I will be. All right, moving on to the wide receiver position. Keenan Allen, the top wide receiver for the Chargers. Phillip Rivers' best friend. I wonder how he's going to work with Tyrod Taylor. I'm not quite sure, but I know that I'd play him. If I had him, I'm playing him. Keenan Allen is very talented, and the Bengals don't scare me. So, let's move on to the running back position. If we're going to talk about the rest of the wide receivers for the Chargers, I'm not starting any of them. That's why I didn't mention them. On to the next, running backs. So, Austin Eckler, you're definitely playing. I love Austin Eckler. I'm so sad I don't have him in any of my leagues this year. It's very disappointing. But it didn't fall that way. So I will be rooting for him anyways. I like Austin Eckler. I think he's going to have a fine game. He'll be catching the ball more than he'll be, well, not more than he'll be running it. I think that he'll run, but he'll be scoring most of his points in the receiving game. I'm interested to see how often Tyrod throws to his running backs, because Phillip Rivers wasn't mobile, so he was constantly dumping it down. But Tyrod doesn't have to necessarily dump it down. He can run for that first down. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out. Next, the tight end, Hunter Henry. I think you can play Hunter Henry this week. Not really scared of the Bengals. I think that they should be leading, and I think that Tyrod's going to throw a couple of short passes to his tight end. So I think that he's playable. Defense is definitely playable. Though I love Joe Burrow, I think that he's fantastic, and I'm really rooting for him this year. They have a fantastic defense. The two cornerbacks are going to be great. AJ Green is going to be his first game he's played in like a year and a half, 2 years. So I think that the Bengals are going to start a little slow. So I think that the Chargers defense will be fantastic. You can definitely start them this week. Now, the kicker, I think you can do fine with starting their kicker. Kind of whatever on the kicker situation. All right, next, we're going to go to the Bengals. Joe Burrow, the #1 overall pick. I'm very excited about him this year. Not in this matchup. Like I said earlier, the cornerbacks the Chargers have are fantastic. Plus, Bosa's going to be coming up. Joey Bosa's going to be coming up the middle. And on the side, he's going to be causing some havoc. I think that defensive line is going to be giving him some trouble, and then Chris Harris Jr. is going to be shadowing one of the receivers, and their other cornerback is fantastic as well. So I don't think Joe Burrow has a fantastic start to the year. I hope he does. I really do. I hope that I'm wrong. All right, next, moving on to the running back position. Joe Mixon's fantastic. Just got paid. Fire him up. Love Joe Mixon this year. Next, wide receivers. So A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd are the wide receivers that I'm really going to talk about. I like both of them season long. I don't like the matchups, like I've said before. So I downgrade them to more like a flex play. And if you have somebody else that you can play over them, I can understand playing somebody else over them. I will be. In a couple of my matchups. I will play A.J. Green in the matchups that I have to play him, but if I don't have to play him, I won't. Or if I need to go for upside, like I have Deshaun Jackson in one of my leagues, and like I said earlier, I love Deshaun Jackson this week. So I played him over A.J. Green. That's actually a decision I have to make in like 2 or 3 leagues. So, but not that you can't play A.J. Green, but he hasn't played in a while, so I'm not quite sure how he's going to play. So I kind of want to be on a wait and see. And I also want to see where Joe Burrow is going to be throwing the ball, because apparently there's a nice connection between him and Tyler Boyd. So I want to see if A.J. Green is going to get funneled the ball or if they're going to spread it around a little bit more. All right. I'm not touching the tight ends for the Bengals and their defense either, or the kicker. So that's going to be it for this matchup. And the Chargers are favored by 3.5. Not going to lie, this is one of my more difficult picks. I am not confident in this selection. I will say it before I make it. My heart wants me to pick the Bengals, but my head tells me to go safe with the Chargers, so I think I'm going to. And I don't tend to root against my own picks, but I hope that the Bengals come out and play really well. So, that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Next is going to be the New England Patriots versus the Miami Dolphins. The spread is -6.5 Patriots, and they're playing in New England. So let's start with those Patriots. Quarterback Cam Newton is the new quarterback for the New England Patriots, and I love it. We get Tom, they get Cam. I mean, I think it's great. So Cam Newton, I actually think you can start him this week. Cam Newton is a very good quarterback when he's healthy, and apparently right now he's healthy. And I think they're going to be very creative in the ways that they use him. We're going to see a much different offense than we had seen in previous years for the Patriots. They've never had a running quarterback like this. The things they're going to be able to do are going to be a lot different than the things that they did with Tom Brady. One thing that I like with Bill Belichick, he's going to play to his players' strengths. And he's not going to have Cam Newton sit in the pocket and throw like Tom Brady. He's going to have some creative plays for him, and I'm very excited to see what that comes out to be. All right, next. Julian Edelman. I actually think you can play Julian Edelman. I like Julian Edelman this year. I think that he was vastly underrated, and I don't have him in my top 15 or top 20, but I definitely think that you can play him this week. He's going to be more of a flex play, but I still definitely think that he can return some value if you need him. That being said, he went so late, you probably won't need to play him, but you can. All right, running back position. This is where it gets a little murky. James White, I think you can fire him up. I don't think this is a great game script for him because he's a pass-catching running back, so you're going to want him more in games where they're down. But I still think that he catches a few balls and he's going to be fun as a flex play. If you're brave, you could play Sony Michel as a flex play. I wouldn't do it, especially considering where you drafted him almost at the very end of your draft. You shouldn't need to play him. But I actually think that he could return some value, especially with Damian Harris being injured. I think that Sony Michel gets leaned on more than he would have if he wasn't injured. Moving on to the tight end position, not playing them. Defense, you could definitely play the defense against Miami. Absolutely. And I think they're going to have a fantastic week this week. Top 10 easy. And we'll go to the kicker, and you can start the Patriots kicker because he's going to be fine. They're going to be moving down the field, and that's what you want in a kicker. All right, next we're going to go to the Miami Dolphins. Fitzpatrick. I like to call him Fitzmagic. I've got the magic in me. Unfortunately, Fitzmagic is playing the Patriots, and I don't think that he's going to have a great game. That being said, I don't know if you know this. So they play twice a year every year. once a year, Miami seems to be able to beat the Patriots. I don't know how they do it. They do it in some miraculous fashion sometimes, like a last play of the game, run it all the way back for a touchdown kind of situation, but it happens. And I like Fitzpatrick. I think that they will be down in this game, and Fitz is going to sling it. He's going to throw some picks, but I actually think that he might be able to throw a touchdown. That being said, I'm not starting Ryan Fitzpatrick. You shouldn't have him on your team. He went undrafted almost everywhere. That being said, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for Ryan Fitzpatrick to have a fine game. Even if he threw some picks, this is fantasy football we're talking about. He can still throw picks and have a fine game. He can still get sacked a bunch and have a fine game. All right, we're moving to the wide receiver position. And I'm not trying to start either one of these. I think Stephon Gilmore is going to shadow Devontae Parker. He's the cornerback for the Patriots. I think he's going to shadow Devontae Parker, and that worries the heck out of me. So I won't be touching Devontae Parker. And then Preston Williams could get easier matchup because they're going to be paying attention to Devontae Parker, but I still don't want to play him either. I would stay away from both of them in this matchup if you can, for sure. All right, moving on to the running back position. New running back core. We got Jordan Howard and we have Matt Breida. I wouldn't play Breida at all. And if you have to, you can play Jordan Howard. But like I said earlier, this is the first week of the season. You shouldn't have to. You should be fine playing another running back with a better matchup. But worst came to worst, I think that he could be a flex play. Jordan Howard, that is. All right, Mike Gesicki, we have some people that drafted him. I wouldn't be happy about playing him against the Patriots. If you have another option, I would go with that. All right, so I would sit him. Next is going to be the defensive kicker. You're not playing defense kicker for Miami, for sure. All right, that's going to be it. The fact that the Patriots lose once a year to Miami, it makes me think about playing them in the 6.5 point spread. But it's the first game of the season, and I think that the Patriots are going to come out with a show. I have the Patriots winning this game by 6.5, but I think it's closer than people think. It may not be a blowout. It's possible. That's all I'm saying. All right, on to the next one. Next game is going to be the Tennessee Titans versus the Denver Broncos. We're going to be playing this in Denver. And Denver is 2.5 point favorites, which kind of surprises me, to be honest with you. All right, so we're going to start with the home team, Mile High. Drew Lock, we're starting at the quarterback position. Drew Lock. I'm not a Drew Lock believer. I need to see it to believe it. I know that a lot of people tout his talent and they say that he should be good, improved from last year, and that's all fine and good, but I mean, we're not starting him in fantasy. Keep it moving. So we're going to go to the wide receiver position. Courtland Sutton is injured, and he is a game time decision. That makes me nervous. I'm not sure how I feel about starting Courtland Sutton in this matchup. I don't like playing players that are trying to fight through injury, especially if he has some difficulty catching. I'm leaning against not playing him unless tomorrow we find out that he's better and good to go, but we'll have to look into that. Keep an eye on his status. Jerry Jeudy might get an increased passing volume with him being out. I'm still not starting him, but I'm interested to see what he can do. He's very talented. All right, moving on to the running back position. Their newly acquired Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's going to be a solid running back too. You can definitely play him. Phillip Lindsay is a borderline flex play. With Courtland Sutton out, they might need to get him a little more involved. If you really need to, you could play him, but again, you probably have better options. Next, we're going to be talking about the tight end. Noah Fant is a solid tight end. I'm interested to see what he's going to do this year. He has some upside. I could see you playing him in this matchup. It's not the greatest matchup, but I could see you playing him. If you drafted him, I don't think you're going to roster two tight ends. Defense. One of my favorite defensive players. Von Miller's injured, and I think that he might be out for the year. I'm very disappointed in that. I love Von Miller. He's such a big, goofy guy. He's just hilarious, wears glasses, and he has great commercials. He's just fantastic. I'm really sad to see this defense lose him, and I also love to watch him play. He's ferocious. He's hilarious. But you can still play their defense. I believe it's going to be a lower scoring game. They're both going to try to run the ball a lot. And you could probably play their kicker too. All right, next we're going to talk about the Tennessee Titans. We're going to start off with the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill. It's going to be okay. I think that he'll get some stuff done with his legs. His efficiency last year was crazy. I don't think that he repeats that. And I also don't think that they're going to need to throw the ball too much in this game because I actually project them to be up. So I'm not trying to start Ryan Tannehill. Next, wide receiver. We're going to talk about A.J. Brown. I think that he's going to be fine this week. I think that you should start him for sure. I'm not going to try to start any of the other wide receivers. Next, we're going to talk about running back. Derrick Henry, you're starting him. He's a beast. No more needs to be said. He's fantastic. Start up Derrick Henry. Next, we're going to talk about the tight end, Jonnu Smith. I think he has some upside this year. I'm not quite sure how he's going to do this week, but I have him as a fringe starter. Next, we're going to talk about the defense. I think you could play Tennessee's defense. I'm actually surprised that they're ranked as low as they are when I look everywhere because Jadeveon Clowney just signed, and Broncos defense is a little dinged up with Von Miller being out. Cortland Sutton's probably going to be out. I like the Titans defense this week to have a pretty solid outing. And you can start their kicker. All right. I think that's going to do it for talking about this matchup. Let's go ahead and pick. It's a 2.5-point spread. I'm going with the Titans. I don't actually think that it's going to be particularly that close. I think the Titans should win this game fairly handily. So I'm pretty confident in this one. I think the Titans are going to take them out. All right. On to the next one. All right, next we're going to be going with the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets. This game is going to be played in Buffalo, and the over-under is -6.5 Bills. All right, so let's start with those Bills since we're playing in Buffalo. So, Josh Allen's going to be a great play this week. I think he's going to use his legs. The Jets don't scare me. You can definitely fire up Josh Allen. He should have a fine game. Next, we're going to go with the wide receivers. And one of my favorite receivers is now a Bill. Stephon Diggs. Can you dig it? Yes, I can, Stephon Diggs. You're going to have a great week. I love Stephon Diggs this week. If you can fit him in your lineup, definitely play him. I'm not going to start any of the other receivers. John Brown and Cole Beasley, I like them as players, but I don't think that I'm not starting them this week for sure. Next, we are going to go to the running back position. Devin Singletary. I think that he is, at best, a flex play. I'm actually really interested to see how the matchup works considering they just drafted Zach Moss. How involved is he? Is he going to take away the goal line work? I'm going to be looking at where they're playing in this offense and who's getting the ball where in this backfield. This could be dicey down the field, or down the stretch, but I think game one, Devin Singletary should have a majority of the work. So I think that he is worthy of a flex play. Next is the tight end. I'm not going to start any tight end on this team. All right, and you could definitely play the defense against the Jets. I think they're a great play, smash play, play the defense, and kickers. Whatever. Next, we're going to be discussing the Jets. So, I'm not touching Sam Darnold with a 10-foot pole in this matchup. The Bills' defense is fantastic, and I'm not trying to start Sam Darnold, who's seeing ghosts. So, we're going to go to the wide receiver position. I'm not trying to start any of them. I do like Jamison Crowder long term. I don't know if this is the best matchup for him. Same with Rashad Perriman. I don't think that if you didn't draft them high enough to where you have to play them, it's more of a wait and see for the receivers for the Jets. Moving on to the running back position, Le'Veon Bell is very solid. I don't think that he's going to have a great game against the Bills, though. The Bills are a fantastic defense, and it's going to take some receptions for him to be anything other than a low-end running back to high-end flex play. I do think that he's going to get some receptions, but the Bills' defense is fantastic, so it's going to cap his upside. Manage that when you're playing him. There are some other players that you could possibly be playing over Le'Veon Bell. This is a very bad matchup. But if you have to play him, I think that he could return low-end running back to value. All right, next, Chris Herndon. I'm curious about what his health is like. I don't know if I want to play him in his first game against the Bills. I think that there's better options out there. If you can find some, I would definitely play them over him. And I'm definitely not playing the Jets defense or kicker. So, I think that's going to do it for this one. Now I got to pick the matchup. 6.5-point spread. Ooh, the Bills. The Bills are going to be pretty good this year. I don't know if they're going to beat the Patriots out of the division, but I think they're going to give them a run for their money. I think that the Bills are moving in the right direction. Great defense, running quarterback. They just helped him out with a nice wide receiver. Run game should be okay. We should see a better Bills team moving forward. All right, and I think that's going to do it. On to the next one. All right, so that was the Week 1 matchups. Let me know what you think. What I get right, what I get wrong. Comment down below. Good luck in your fantasy matchups this week. I wish you all the best. And Bay Nation, you got this. I'm here with you. Peace.